Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Once more, my name is Dr. Makumarut, and today I'm going to talk about records management at different stages of the life cycle. What is it that is happening at each stage of the life cycle when records from its creation until it is disposed of to destruction or even to transfer to the archival repository? To start or to begin with, let me start with briefly outlining the different stages of the life cycle. Those include the creation, that is when the records are created by the records creators during business transactions, during business communication. And the second stage, we have distribution and use. That's where the records are distributed and used by different officials for different business purposes in the organization. So, because remember, these records may be in a form of correspondence or other records. And in case of the correspondence, records may be distributed from from the communicator to the recipient of the communication, or to the person or official who this communication is directed to. And in terms of the business transaction, the records may be used for referral, for audit, for monitoring and evaluation, for different purposes of the business. You may name, I only named few, but there are a lot to use as an example. And the next stage, it will be storage and maintenance. That this is where the situation where the records now is landing in the registry or in the record management section, where it is given the proper care and the maintenance as the officials or business officials requires them frequently. These records are secured and maintained in this section, and access is controlled in this section. Whoever want to use the records will approach the section and request the records for use, and they are also given a time frame for returning them for proper keeping going forward into the section. So because some of these records are going to be archived as a memory and heritage of the memory of the organization and heritage for the country, depends. And eventually, after when the records are no longer in use or in high demand or useful to the organization of creation, the organization may decide to dispose them depending on the value. The records may be destroyed if they are ephemeral or have short-term value. Or alternatively, the records may be transferred to the archive repository for permanent keeping and maintenance if they are of secondary value or of interest to the public or community at large for different purposes that include research, include historical value, include not financial as such, but historical value, and many other reasons that the records may be required for permanent keeping, including the legal value, because the records may be used to prove legal issues in future, not necessarily only to the organization of origin or organization where the records was created. So a record, like a human being, need to a proper care and maintenance and protection from any hazard or a peril that may affect it at any stage of its life. Going forward, I want us to focus on the first stage of the records life cycle, which is creation. Here I'm going to share with you about what must happen before and during the creation of the records. In most instances, during this stage, as I already said, is the stage or period whereby the records are created or in this case, as comparing to the human being, the kid will be born. So here records are born in a form of creation in different formats, and after which they need to be maintained and protected against anything that can damage or destroy it. Before this, the record manager or the unit that are responsible for management of records, they need to conduct a survey, a record survey, to identify different kind of records and also identify which kind of protection or maintenance are required for each of the records. And they must also identify which records will be ephemeral, which ones will be having a long-term value, or they will be required to be transferred to archive for permanent keeping. So this happened during the record survey, and during this period, usually in most cases, organizations are reactive to the record management, because most of the activities happen during the time when the records are already created, and even in some stages long after the records are created. And in these cases, it causes a lot of backlogs for whoever record manager or the officials who will be appointed to take responsibility for management of such records, because they will have to make sure that the records are in order, or in good order, in terms of filing, in terms of disaster preventive measures, and so that records may be easily accessible when they are required, because obviously they will be requested from them, and they have to render the service as required. So the record management unit here, they have to also make available or prepare for the control tools for incoming and outgoing records, depending on whether the organization work manually or electronically. In case they are working manually, they will have to prepare the manual records control registers, so that whatever movement of the records in and out of registry or record management unit is recorded, so that they can have information about the whereabouts of the records, and they can trace it and follow it up when it is required and is not returned to the registry. And some of the documents that need to be made available or prepared include the forms or control registers, as I said. The forms may be, for example, the forms that may be used for requesting the records from the registry. And the record manager and the unit need to also determine the formats and the layout of the records or documents that will be created. Are these records going to be created electronically, or are they going to be in a paper format? So this will make them to be ready for the kind of record that need to be managed. Because if records are created electronically, they will have to think about the electronic system that can be applied to ensure that the records are properly managed and secured and accessible. And they must have a way of maybe issuing or sharing the records with the relevant people who will be requiring them. And in case the records are paper-based, they also need to develop policies and procedures that will control this records movement, and also give responsibility to appropriate relevant people who will be having access or in possession of the records. And this is the first stage of the record management. And on the other side, the record manager must prepare the control measures like policies, procedures, and they must also research or find out about relevant legislations that need to be utilized or applied in managing the records. and they must know the how. They must actually familiarize themselves with these documents to understand what is required of them in terms of managing the records. So most of the things, to my understanding or my taking, are supposed to happen even before the records are created. Actually, the record management in particular is supposed to be planned during business planning or business business planning, so that when the records are created, all the tools are here: the control registers, the file plan, the schedule for other records, the procedure manuals, and as well as the policies. And also the organization must be already familiar with the legislations that are supposed to be complied with. Thank you, and we will proceed with the next stage of the records life cycle tomorrow, or in the next lesson, which is distribution and use. Thank you for now.